Questions. We want to ask questions. Questions.
Thank you to our panelists and for sharing your expertise with us tonight and being a resource, considering we have a lot of questions.
Yes.
And so we will now begin our question and answer session.
Finally.
So what I will do is I will invite someone to come to the microphone. It is located right here to my left. You are welcome to articulate your question to the panelists. First up,
can I just come up?
From Monterey.
But wait a minute, they said there's a microphone. Can I speak at the microphone?
No,
she will call you.
We have a question regarding how the new tax law will impact public school education and higher education. I just want to state that this is a shared question that was submitted by Yumi Lin from Arcadia, California. Again, what is the impact on higher education? Please go ahead.
My question is, I'm a teacher for the Los Angeles Unified School District, and I'm also a parent of college age, 2 college students. And I've seen how high the tuition has risen, the UC system, and unfortunately, I think more of our children who attend public school are being shut out of the dream of attending a UC. And so now we've created a tier system where now the community colleges are impacted because they're having, so it trickles down to our Cal State and down to our community colleges.
That's not a federal issue, lady.
And I'm just seeing the quality that I received going to college as a student at UC Santa Cruz during my time was far richer and more affordable than my own children now.
That's the state, because the state cares more about the
I'm
legals.
questioning how this new tax bill will further impact and to what extent. And I already see it impacting as a teacher in my classroom. I don't know how far, in other words, I guess my question to you is, I know it's going to impact it negatively. I just want to kind of foresee, like, how far will this go? I mean, I don't even know.
What are you asking?
To tell my own children about their futures and the amount of debt. I don't know, I guess it's a multi-part question.
Pass the mic. How about have the other one in the audience? Oh, brother, here she comes. Oh, no.
So there were some big threats at the beginning of the process of this bill, and there were some cuts that were proposed to some important tax credits. And in fact, the lifetime learning credit, that was going to be cut. There was also going to be a cut to the teacher's credit, which allows a teacher to deduct certain amounts of materials that the teacher may use in the classroom. Because of the big protests, those cuts were not made to those particular tax credits. But I thought that there was a great opportunity here to make college more affordable. And that's why I wanted to see an expansion of the American Opportunity Tax Credit. This is something that you can directly use for college. And basically, it applies to the first 4 years of post-secondary education. The maximum credit is $2,500 per eligible student. 40% of the credit, up to $1,000, is refundable, meaning that you can get the money back regardless of whether you are actually itemizing or not. I thought this would have been a great opportunity for us to expand that tax credit, because we know that going to college is way more than $2,500. Just for tuition and books alone, it's much more expensive. And in fact, college debt is at its greatest level.
I paid mine off.
If I were the one being able to write this bill, I certainly would have expanded this, because having a college education is the best way to get into the middle class.
No, it isn't.
Thank you. So considering the time, we have about 10 minutes left in our program. We are going to strategically prioritize questions
of course.
from the constituents of the congressional representatives.
Oh.
And with that, I would invite David Dellamar from Pasadena to come to the microphone.
He spent like 50 minutes talking.
Has a question for our representatives, I believe, regarding providing substantial support to the IRS in terms of implementation of this. Please, David. Thank you and welcome. Please make it right.
50 minutes of talk. I thought it was people at town hall.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
I am a former IRS employee, not current. So current employees are restricted by certain rules about what they can say. But I just wanted to point out.
Did you guys really harass the Tea Party?
The gentleman who gave the analogy about the CHP enforcing the law. The IRS enforces the law that Congress writes. And the IRS has lost. I know you're not going to moan and groan about this, but tens of thousands of employees over
Yes.
7 or so
Yes.
years. And that
Fire them all.
has a significant impact on the ability of the agency to administer the laws. And so the question I asked was about giving the appropriate amount of funding to let the IRS do the important work that's done, because government employees have a job.
Judy Chu looks really
and
constipated.
that's what they're doing. So I'm curious about what Congress can do to ensure that along with everything else, and you have the right funding to administer these laws so that people, including a couple of the gentlemen sitting up here, can
Fire them too.
take home a paycheck and come to work,
Yes.
have a desk, and administer the laws that are being passed.
Government welfare.
Government welfare.
Would either one of our representatives like to answer that?
Ugh. I want to ask a question.
Given the fact that we have this
Huge.
debt, and in an effort, particularly under the current leadership,
Oh, brother.
one of the first
They really care about the debt now?
attacks are made on federal employees and their agencies.
Good.
So that is a constant fight that we have
Fire 'em.
every single year in Congress and as part of the appropriations committee.
Get a real job.
And so, yes, we need to be able to fund our agencies because they do play an important role in providing information.
Stealing from us?
To the American
Harassing us.
public. But unfortunately, they are often demonized and as a result become an easy target
Yes.
when it comes to the appropriations process. But I can assure you,
Drain the
there are
swamp.
many in Congress who have fought against these cuts and what has been happening, and who will continue to do so because they provide a very, very important, very valuable service to the American public.
Thank you. I now invite John Norton from Claremont to come up to the microphone.
What about Robin Olson?
You have a question regarding charitable donations. That was a question that was also shared by Kevin Smith from San Gabriel.
Yes, I'm interested in how the new tax law affects charitable donations. I'm also concerned about I live on a fixed income, and I see with the reductions in the local and real estate tax that that reduction partially goes away for me next year. And I think what it does is going to take me from like the 15% bracket, which exists today, to the 22% bracket, and I'll experience a wild increase in taxes next year. I'm wondering if
What?
they may come to that with charitable.
This is yours. This is yours, isn't it?
So I think I try to answer your question. Obviously,
What was the question?
tax advice, but I can give you a general sense of what changes you can expect in your 2018 tax return.
Saving money.
So one of the big changes that was made in the recent legislation that we haven't mentioned yet is the change to the standard deduction. So Californians tend to be itemizers
Not me.
because of the state and local tax deduction, because mortgage.
Because we're taxed too much.
Tends to be quite large in California because property is expensive. A lot of people aren't going to be itemizing anymore under the new law.
I never did.
You need to have $24,000 of itemized deductions before it even makes sense to itemize at all.
Yeah.
And so, given this new limit to your state and local tax deductions, capping it at $10,000, you need $14,000 of deductions from somewhere else before you're going to start itemizing.
Give it to me.
Just to be clear, if you're not an itemizer, if you take the standard deduction, you get no benefit from the charitable contribution deduction.
I don't.
Right? So, for those, a lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the charitable contribution deduction. It's
Yes.
the idea that when
I
you
donated
give
to a great charity.
the government pays a little bit with you by giving you a small reduction in your taxes. because of the changes to the standard deduction, fewer people are going to be itemizers, and so fewer people are going to see a benefit from.
How about not texting us so much?
This isn't to discourage you from donating to charity, right?
Yeah.
We donate to charity for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
We even talk, it's not just about the tax deduction.
Donate to the Trump campaign.
Going away for a lot of time.
Please go ahead, Michael.
I just want to add one short little thing.
Look at they got pink and purple.
I agree with everything Jason said, but the cap on charitable contributions, which is currently 50% of the
He's like telling him, sit down.
actually was increased on
Afuera.
60.
Move it, Grandpa. Could you say that again?
The cap on
Oh, it's a green one.
contribution, you're not allowed to contribute more than 50% of your adjusted gross income.
Uh-oh.
Or deduct contribution of more. And that's increased to 60%. That might make the difference between this gentleman itemizing or not, but it is true, there's a significant increase in the standard deduction, which change a lot of people. But I also want to go back to what Eric said. Do check your own tax situation, because I'm losing, I don't know, $16,000 of itemized deductions.
Well, you're well paid. You're a federal
Full
employee.
personal exemptions. I'm still probably going to itemize, so the increased standard deduction does me no good. And my withholding
cares?
went down.
You're a tax
That
fraud.
makes no sense at all. That's just a recipe for people owing a big tax bill next year.
Bleh.
So be current.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to add? Great.
Do you pay your fair share, Judy?
Next to the microphone, please, Janine Patria, who has a question. Are you still here? Thank you. Who has a question regarding young people who are new homeowners.
Oh, I love it.
And how the mortgage
That
payments,
movie.
and what the impact
She's gonna hate.
the new tax bill will have on their mortgage payments.
Yes, I have two adult
I'm not
children
cursing.
who are both relatively new homeowners. As you know, real estate in Southern California is very expensive, so
duh.
are having mortgages that are also very high. Because of the way
She looks like
most
Carol Schaefer.
mortgages are amortized,
Amortized?
most of their interest is paid up front, so very little goes to principal, the most goes to interest. They were really hysterical because they were counting when they bought houses, one a year ago, 2 years ago, that at least the interest would be deductible. So this law really just came out of the blue.
No, it didn't.
I'm wondering how they can justify this towards our young people who will no longer be an advantage to be a homeowner.
Well, not in this state it is anyway. She's a homeowner.
Yeah, you liars.
Maybe I can provide a little bit of comfort,
Yeah.
which is to say that
You're leaving.
the home mortgage interest deduction was changed in the recent tax legislation, but was changed in the following way. So you were always allowed to take interest deduction on the interest on the first $1 million of mortgage debt you had. That cap has been reduced to $750,000. However, all existing homeowners were grandfathered in. So the mortgage interest deduction that your children have, if they purchased 2 years ago or last year, isn't going to be affected, putting aside once again this idea of are you itemizing or not. So that can still affect things. But in terms of, as long as they're itemizing, the rule is specifically written to grandfather them. That does raise an interesting policy question, though. Just because they get to take the interest deduction, does that mean they get away scot-free? Not necessarily, right? Because if you think about when your kids go to sell that home, the purchaser of that house will not be grandfathered in under the old mortgage interest deduction. And so, and this is
Living trust.
something that Jeff referenced in his prepared remarks. There is a chance that this will negatively affect property values. Economists are still trying to figure exactly how much. There's going to be some sort of effect.
Will it be easier
We're
to
not
buy a
sure
home?
It will be really big or really small. But in terms of your kids being able to afford their house going forward, the mortgage interest deduction is more the same than it is different for them.
So it's grandfathered in if you bought from December 31 back. So it's actually the kids, younger people who are now currently buying that are really going to not make it be a lot less affordable.
It's actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that for the reason Jeff was referencing, right? There's a chance that since this tax benefit is no longer available to the purchasers, that the price of homes will actually go down to reflect the fact that those tax benefits.
There you go.
So there's some sharing, basically, of the
Spread the wealth.
detriment in the tax law between current owners and new purchasers.
Yay.
And thank you. So we just have time for one last question.
How about over here?
This is an appropriate question to end our evening on. Its sentiment is shared by Charles Dillon, but I'm going to invite Kristen from Pasadena to come up to the microphone if you are here. Thank you. Please come up to the microphone. I knew they would.
What was your question?
What the hell is what's California Democrat Congress doing about swatting the hornets in their nests?
Oh, I know. How about all the sexual allegations and perversions?
All the high taxes are meant to fund CalPERS, CalSTRS, pensions.
And illegals.
And may I add, on behalf of Charles, to also include what can we, as individual voters,
Do you pay your fair share?
I do want to say that there is a proposal to try to deal with the state and local tax deduction cap. And it's a very interesting idea that is creating a charitable deduction to take care of the deductions that you will no longer be able to make for your state and local tax.
How about lowering our taxes?
I told you that the average tax deduction for state.
She voted to raise her taxes in the assembly.
But the cap is at 10,000, so that means we have an 8,500
She's
shortfall.
so annoying.
So could you make a charitable deduction to the state of California and then still get that $18,000 worth of a deduction? Well, I can tell you that Senator Ken Nagin did introduce Senate Bill 227 and creates the California Excellence Fund, which provides a credit against state income tax liability for contributions in this fund. The bill has gotten out of 2 committees and it now is pending a floor vote. The question is whether it's viable because the IRS is the IRS
Be careful what you say. They're right there.
Saying that charitable contributions should be only for truly charitable purposes.
Okay. You mean not congressional campaigns?
I can tell you that people are just trying to think of ways to deal with it, so they're thinking.
Lower our taxes. Lower our taxes. We pay too damn much in this state. Tell De Leon to lower my taxes.
Well, in addition to what Judy was talking about,
We pay too much.
trying to introduce bills and policies.
Wow, this is a church, sir.
Hopefully, we can encourage at least 218 of our colleagues to support.
You talk to your grandchildren like that?
Throughout the fact that any positive change that we want, that is going to come not from within, but from without.
Vote for more
It's gonna
Republicans.
come from the public pressure. From the
Did you hear that? She said Republic
members
pressure.
of Congress who represent all of you. And you're lucky that you have Judy here. Because
No, we're not.
The fighter. And I'm sure she will welcome your calls and your support and your ideas. But that has to happen across the country.
She looks like a mannequin.
Because the power of positive change is with the people of this country.
Getting rid of you.
And I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best examples is just what happened with the current bill, not the tax bill, but the budget that we passed in 2018. I mean, they would eliminate money for health centers.
You didn't publish nothing.
Eliminate money for education.
You just
Some
show
long list
up.
of things that was going to happen. But because of the outcry of the public,
Yeah.
the calls that were made to members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, saying this is not acceptable. That Leader Pelosi, in her negotiations with the Republican leadership, was able to reverse a lot of.
Was it when she stood for 8 hours for illegals and not for Americans?
The power really lies with all of you, and that we depend on your advocacy and your ideas, because the best ideas often come from those that
That's right.
have to live with the decisions that we make.
We do. That's right.
That's a perfect way to end the evening.
No, no. Do you pay your fair share? How much do you make there, Judy?
Thank you all.